Thank you very much for joining. My topic for today is how to relate to the users and how to validate your product idea. When I worked with the startup owners, especially with the startup owners with the tech background, the first sentence that they would say is, my product is amazing, it's technically perfect, and everyone can use it. So I would ask them, okay, and which problem does your product solve? Well, there is no problem. Well, in that case, you do not have a product, because like a good product must solve some problems and be valuable to some target audience. It can't solve everyone's problems. It simply can't. One of the most effective strategies and approaches to increase the quality and consistency of work is to bring a user persona into the picture. Personas as a concept have actually been used since the mid-90s, and since then has gained widespread awareness within the product and the user experience design community. Once you start using personas, your process is going to become a lot more efficient and fun, since it's really, really helpful in designing a better product. A persona is basically a way to model, summarize, and communicate a research about people who have observed or researched. In some capacity, a persona is depicted as a specific person, but it basically is not a real individual. It's rather synthesized from observations of many people. You can think of them as main characters in a fictional story, and each persona represents a significant demographic of people in the real world. This enables the product managers to focus on designing features for a small set of characters. Many products fail just because they didn't go through the personalization of the exercise, and they were solutions looking for problems, not vice versa. Also, many times they were designed for too many personas. Let's look at some steps that we must follow in order to create a persona. So each persona should have name, photo, description, and a goal. Now, one of the great things about personas is that they are very light and they are super easy to create. This is, in fact, a minimum that every persona should have. The name should include an adjective starting with the same letter-like name. For example, impatient Irene, hungry Hank, etc. Having a first name as an adjective makes it easier to team to refer to in discussion and bring a lot of more fun into the process. You also want to include a photo, because the team may not always remember the name of the persona, but they will always remember a photo. We as humans are incredibly visual creatures, so a great way to reinforce a concept with your team is to associate it with a photo personas. When choosing a photo, do not use a photo of famous actors, singers, etc. And the reason for that is rather simple. People tend to give certain attributes to the famous people, which can confuse the team about the real purpose and characteristic of user persona, because one team can see that person as their characteristic as someone is angry, another person can see it in some other way, and that will cause some confusion. And finally, each persona includes a brief description of that user. Now, I want to be very clear about this. The description should necessarily focus on what the user is doing within the product, but rather what they want to get out of your product. The description should also include some of the person's habits and tools that they are commonly using. Specifically, what is their motivation for using your product? We're very often more interested in the why rather than how. So now that we have a real feel for what types of details that goes into the personas, let's look how to create some of our own. So this is very simple template, a 3-column template. I personally like this template because first of all, it's super simple. There are only 3 columns, which give you a lot of freedom to decide which details make sense for which personas and which don't. I also like this template because it has a dedicated space for goals. Having the space forces us to think about what is the motivation of each persona that they have for using our product. This allows you to raise about what and how for each user to really get at why they would want to use your product in the first place. So let's make an example persona for example, food delivery app. During this pandemic, we got used to ordering food. So let's take that as an example. So this is one guy. We'll begin with a user who's actually interested in getting groceries delivered on a daily basis. Let's give him a name, for example, Busy Ben, because the same letter like adjective and the name. And we give him a picture as well, so that the team can more easily relate to him. Now, I want to point out a couple of things before we move on. First of all, notice that this is a picture of a real person, not a cartoon, clip art, or drawing. It is very critical to use a picture of a real person, as they will be much easier for the team to relate to than a cartoon or a drawing, and it will help to reinforce the team that this persona represents a real person that will be using our product. I specifically wanted a picture of a man with a laptop because that's the type of persona that I wanted to describe. We'll give a lot more context to the user persona if you can find an actual image of that person in a setting or doing an action that reinforces the use of the product, since the team is most likely to anchor on the photo of the persona first. This will help us to create a connection early on of what the user is trying to accomplish. I also want to call it that expression and image are worth 1,000 of words. In this case, we can see that Ben is super busy and seems to be a bit lost in his computers. He is thinking about the coding and all the work that he has to finish. We want to be very careful that we choose an image of a person whose expression matches how they should feel about our product. What I typically do is just do a Google search for the images that match the description of what you expect your persona would look like. If you are looking for high quality images, you can use some of the stock photos that you can find online, and they are either very cheap or even free of charge. So the next thing are details. We'll keep our persona very light in our details, and we'll only include his interests in tools in this case. So our Ben has a full-time job and has trouble with planning his grocery shopping trips. He's versatile with technology and keeps looking for good deals online. The description section is very light, so this is easy for the team to read without being overwhelmed and losing focus with too many details. Finally, I will add a goal when I'm using this template. I put a quote in the goal column. The quote gives us a great way to sum up what the user is trying to accomplish. This gives us a very easy way to remember a phrase that the team can hang on to, that really captures what this person tries to do. The goal also acts as a great test when we evaluate features that seem to be on the edge of being useful. So it may or may not really contribute to the goal of that user. So if you have a feature that targets a specific persona, but doesn't fit into the person's goal, then you should think that that is a great indicator that the story is irrelevant and should be either prioritized low or completely discarded. While creating your persona, be aware of the negative persona as well. So what are the negative personas? Those are people that won't use your product. And the importance of that is if you know who are not your users, you won't spend too much time on them, but rather focus on the real users. You won't try to sell the food delivery app to the 80-year-old who doesn't use the computer or the mobile phone. You simply won't, right? So these 4 things from a template are basic while creating your user personas. You may go into more details and make it very specific. In order to do so, you may use some online tools, for example, HubSpot, Make My Persona. It's very convenient and can ease the process for you. Personas can be created in many different ways. So here is some step-by-step process that I personally like when I'm creating them. So the first thing is to interview and observe an adequate number of people. The second thing I would do is to find patterns in their interviews and response and action. I will use those patterns to group similar people together. The third thing that I would do is to create personas of those groups based on the patterns. What you should be very careful here is not to create too many personas, and also to update your personas. The more info you get during the interviews and the more product users you have, you will get a clearer picture and be able to adjust your user persona. Another tool that can help you with targeting your users and cultivating empathy is so-called empathy map. So this is how the empathy map looks like. You might be thinking, how is that different from the personas? Well, that's a great question, because on the surface, they both seem similar. They both help you to create a description of your users, and they both get your team thinking in a more user-friendly way. When designing a product, however, empathy map differs from personas in that it focuses on uncovering the sensory information experience of the users. So while personas focus on demographic habits, tools, and goals, empathy maps uncover what your persona sees, thinks, feels, shares, and likes. And also says, think of a persona as a tool to identify a group of like-minded people, while an empathy map will capture a snapshot of one persona's state of mind in this way. Empathy mapping is all about sensory impact, and that's what makes it such a powerful tool. So how do you make an empathy map? Well, just like a persona. It's super easy to pick a persona that you want to study and think about them when they are using your product, experiencing their problem, and start fleshing out in their life relation to it. Well, better yet, you can use this map as a note sheet when you're observing them in their real life. You can also do this on a whiteboard with a team. And if you do this in a team setting, make sure that you have lots and lots of sticky notes ready. There are some online tools such as Miro and Mural, for example, that provide an empathy map template that you and your team can use for this purpose. So let's create one empathy map. So we are taking our busy Ben into consideration. Let's, for example, imagine that he is some busy developer who is working full time and he doesn't have time for grocery shopping. So what he sees, he is not a very social person. He doesn't have time for grocery shopping, and that's how he behaves every day. So what he say and do, he has an anxiety when he is shopping groceries. His grocery shopping is his least favorite activity, and he always ends up buying something that is unnecessary for him. What does he hear? You're always forgetting to buy things that we need for home, and grocery shopping is expensive. What he thinks and feels: it would be great if I can get my groceries delivered. I'd like to plan my grocery shopping, and it would be great to review my cart before buying it. When you have this, you can have some pain and gain that your app, your food delivery app, would give to him. So the pain that he has anxiety in crowded places, he's frustrated with going over budget, and he's tired after his long working hours. What are some gains? He is staying within the budget. He has the convenience of the shopping, and he has some time that he can save for the activities that he really enjoys in, and that's definitely not shopping. So when we have this, what we need is to validate our idea. So let's see what are some types of experiments that we can run. The first type is smoke selling. In order to perform smoke selling testing, you must focus on these things. So you must decide what you want to test, how to test it, what to track, who to test on, and after you gather all this, to analyze data and optimize. What we are usually testing, we are testing some hypotheses. For example, are people willing to pay for my product? Do I have a valid business idea, etc.? How to test it? Well, smoke testing is usually only one pager, so one landing page, which describes the product and requests the visitor to sign up to a mailing list. You can use some online tools to create one pager, such as Unbounce or Instapage. A landing page is an amazing place to test your unique value proposition. So your unique value proposition is something that you want to offer to the users. And each landing page should have these three things. So you're introducing your potential customer to your brand with the title. You are giving him your unique value proposition. In this case, like it's an easy online sneaker raffle entry aggregator for the latest releases and drops. Simply provide us a few details and we'll do the rest. And the important part also is call to action. This is this buy now. You should ensure that your branding, messaging, and visual identity are consistent across all platforms, from your social platforms to your advertisement. This is very crucial for adding legitimacy to your product. With these landing pages, you can do very quick iteration by changing the product or feature description in measuring the sign-up conversion rate. And that can provide you very fast learnings about what the users are interested in and armed you with persona. As I said, the most important button here is call to action, this buy now button, and it must be trackable. KPIs that you will want to pay particular attention to include overall conversion percentage of customers from landing page to complete action, the click-through rate from any ads you set up based on the different keywords, and the bounce rate of your landing page for different keywords. So basically what you are testing is how many people that came to this site clicked buy now, how many people came from a different ad, and how many people continue after this buy now, and how many of them left. In order to test your product hypothesis, you can create Google ads or Facebook ads that are targeting your product demographic to the users. It will look like you're advertising a finished product. And when people click on the ad, take them to the product landing page that says something like this: oops, our waiting list is currently full. Sign up and you'll be the first one to know when it becomes available. So the higher the click-through rate, the more email addresses you collect, the stronger product hypothesis will be. In addition, you will have a list of all email addresses with customers' contact info. Those are the people that you can sell to when your product does launch. A typically well-targeted ad will convert around 3%. So if your product idea can beat that 3%, then it's safe to say that there is a market for your product. As the data and the click flow in, be sure to continually track and optimize your campaign to maximize insights and learning. This may include tweak of ad copy or elements of your landing page. If you invest money in your campaign, but you have 0 clicks on your call to action, something is very wrong with either messaging, price, or the idea itself. A smoke test can be one of the most powerful ways to help you figure out if you sign for success. Just follow these 5 simple steps in the guide. Define what the success would look like, design your landing page experiment, define your key metrics and track them, drive the right traffic to your experiment, and analyze results and iterate or optimize. Another way, when you're selling, one way to greatly enhance the landing page is to create product demo videos. Keep in mind that you do not have to have a working product in order to make this video. A great example of this is a Dropbox. Before they launched their final product, the CEO made a simple 3-minute screencast of the technology as it meant to work. He was talking and leading people through the video. He is explaining which screen should do what and how it should all synchronize. The viewer can watch his mouse manipulation on his computer. So they first created a demo video where users were able to see how it should function and what Dropbox offers to the users. At the end of the video, they had a link where it was written, "We are still in private beta, but you can visit us and sign up to give it a shot at www.dropbox.com. Thank you." Even though that video made the promise that Dropbox looks incredibly smooth and works like magic, in reality, they were nowhere near a finished product. Their tracking tool recounted that it drove hundreds of thousands of people to the website. Their beta waiting list went from 500 people to 5,000 people literally overnight. Dropbox is not the only one that uses this type of verification. Some other companies use it the same way. Slack is also one of them, for example. So since people tend to visualize things, it's very convenient and easy to test your idea and find the first beta users before even creating the product. So these are some of the things how you can recognize who your users are and how you can validate your product without spending too much money into very expensive campaigns and invest a lot of time into it. So thank you very much. Do you have some questions for me now? Benjamin, do we have some questions?
Well, there is no questions for you at this moment. Well, I will ask the public now if have any questions to turn their microphone on and talk with you. We have like 25 minutes more, so it's a great offer.
Maybe one question from my side. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you're mentioning this more for startups. Is it anyhow applicable maybe for the already established companies that want to develop some new product or something like this? Or how do you see it, like working for maybe already established companies?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, it is possible to work in the already established companies because, for example, you want to add some new features to your already existing product. And then you can do this to test to see if that additional feature will fit into that. Also, some very famous brands, for example, they are working the way that they are creating their new line. Then they're looking what are their target audience, what is the price, and then they publish like commercial and see how many people would buy for that price. So they are using that, let's call it trick, to see whether that product will be possible to sell to the audience that they want to sell. Also, these demo videos, some companies are using when they're already established and when they want to get more users, especially these SaaS products, since people tend to watch videos and listen to the things, and it's much easier to understand how something functions if you see the video and click to it, than if just someone explains to you and you are on the empty canvas without knowing what to do.
Yep, makes sense. Thank you very much.
Welcome.